All right, let's get things going today. So good afternoon, everyone here in person, online. I would like y'all to have you all with us for our November meeting of the local AMS chapter. So we're just gonna go right in and go with our speaker, and I'd like to present Martin Lisius. I hope I'm pronouncing that.
You are.
Cool. So he is an award-winning cinematographer and photographer with Prairie Pictures, Tempest Tours. He founded StormStock. This is a collection of premium weather and climate footage. He's also founded and chairs the Texas Severe Storm Association, a nonprofit for severe weather education and mitigation, and beyond. The photography, the storm chasing, the companies. He's helped produce television commercials, or television programs, commercials, short films. He was a technical advisor for Twister. Oh, and a book author as well. You pretty much do everything, don't you?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. So, let's see here. He also created StormWatch, which is spotter training for the weather service. So actually, yeah, you do everything.
Yeah, we need to make a new one of those.
Yeah, we do. So without further ado, I present Martin. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is our stage for today. And I'm going to bring Kim George up here. She's with Tempest Tours, and she's going to give away a couple t-shirts. Kim?
Good morning, everybody. I'm so pleased to be with you guys. Besides the guest relations manager of Tempest Tours, I help Martin with all of his chasing and with all of his filming, and I'm there all the time helping him with all of these projects, and some of them you will see today, one with the videos. But we are also getting started for TESSA, which will be March 2nd. I hope everybody can come, but it's also going to be online this year, which is going to be great. And Jennifer Dunn is going to be our keynote speaker for the event, which will be a lot of fun. But to get us started, I may have to disqualify like Tim, because he's one of the guys who could probably answer most of the questions I was going to ask.
Sorry.
But and I think he might have enough of our t-shirts. But anyway, if anybody can answer the question, what was the hugest monetary disaster in the United States, or one of the top two?
You get a t-shirt.
Did anyone answer it that's online with us?
What are the top two costliest natural disasters in U.S. history? Just name one of them and you'll get a t-shirt, if anyone is actually watching.
Nope.
Who's down?
Fires in Maui. That's my guess.
Maui?
We don't talk about these.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. How about another question?
Okay. So if you can't answer that, just say no, I can answer that. Because we're trying to figure out if anyone can communicate.
Well, do we have are they all unmuted? Because I think y'all have to unmute them.
Yeah, they can unmute themselves.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Well, anyway, why don't you just give the t-shirt to Steve, and
Okay.
then he can maybe give it out next week.
I'd be more than glad to do that. Okay. All right.
Okay, so thank you, Kim. So now we're going to watch 3 short videos. What do they run, like total of 4 minutes or so? And then after we watch the videos, then we'll do kind of an extended Q&A, and you can ask any question you want regarding storm chasing. Oops.
1 second, Martin. I don't think that actually shared correctly. Dave, did you see that online or?
No, I did not see it online. It's not sharing.
Okay. Oh, there was. Oh, doggone it. That was the magic. Okay.
There you are.
I reshared on purpose because it didn't work the first time. So.
Go back to the link doc. Yeah. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. And so now we're going to have an extended Q&A session. So you can ask me any questions that you have about storm chasing. It could be about photography or logistics or forecasting or what we typically eat, for instance. What do we do when we get bored? That sort of thing. So any questions that you have, we'll go ahead and open it to the group that's here currently and online. And you're the moderator?
Yeah, I'll moderate it.
Okay.
So yeah, if anyone has any initial questions or
Okay. So maybe you describe your most dangerous situation that you found yourself in that you weren't planning on.
That's a good media question, right, Tim?
That's a good question.
Mostly I was watching Tim trying to get away for that one tornado in southern Oklahoma or central Oklahoma. That was scary. Haven't really had anything quite that close. I think probably my closest, getting caught by the storm type of event was just with hail, with giant hail that destroyed my car. But other than that, I don't really recall any like time when a tornado was going to get me because I try to stay out of the path. So if you have a path going like this and you're with the storm, you stay over here, right? So it goes like this and you stay with it like this. Don't get up here in front of it. So,
yeah. But I just didn't know if, like, I don't know, more recently, obviously in the last, 5-10 years, there's been clearly a surge in interest in chasing. And, again, you'll find traffic in, very congested areas that normally are not, congested. And I didn't know if that played any impact on
right.
You got stuck or you were in a situation of like, okay, we had an escape route that we were planning, but now it got, backed up. And
so we've adjusted, we being myself and Tempest Tours, we talk a lot about logistics and we've adjusted to the changing environment. So even though tornadoes and supercells haven't changed much to, I guess, centuries, you're right, the environment with the people, that has changed. And so we keep that in mind. We're using Google Maps a lot and traffic. So we're keeping an eye on traffic, whereas before we didn't have to really look at that. So we do keep it in mind, even before we leave on that day. So if we think it's going to be a big event near our city, Oklahoma City, then we're like really, really thoughtful about what kind of traffic we're going to have later in the day. We know for sure it's going to be crowded if it was in that location.
Now, the closer it is to any major city or anything like that, the more chasers. But the chaser problem has become prevalent anytime it's close enough for a lot of people to get to. And we had an occasion this last year because all the storms seemed to be in Texas and in New Mexico for a while there, the first of the season. And there was a really big storm that came through, and there had been at least 120 chasers around us when we were chasing, and it became problematic as the storm began to grow. And we were trying to get out, and it was wall cars for miles. And so it can become
not
very
such great road
problematic.
conditions, baby.
But
Yeah, well, you're on a farm road.
Yeah.
You're a narrow farm road. So
our staff is aware of that. And so they can't give me the excuse that, oh, traffic.
Right.
That's not acceptable.
You have
They
to plan
have to
for
be
it, yeah.
ahead of the curve.
now is this something where, given the prevalence of storm chaser conversions, is it your goal to always be on the primary target, or you consider second, tertiary targets something where everyone and their mother might be on storm A, you might head off the storm B instead?
Well, myself and Bill Reed have very similar, he's our tour director, our senior tour director. We have very similar philosophies and they're pretty close to being parallel, but he might put a little more emphasis on the meteorological target, the one's the most favorable meteorologically, whereas I might also add in a rural area, something that's maybe more rural. So I tend to catch a lot of southern storms because you may have the better shear farther north, but it may be near, say, Oklahoma City. It commonly is. Whereas down by the Red River, still really great conditions, but less traffic. So I'll opt for something like that. You know what I'm talking about, and Tim knows what I'm talking about. So it just depends on what you. I really like not having a lot of traffic. It's just I like being in the rural area because it's beautiful. You know, that's part of what we want to see as storm chasers. So I'll certainly give it a wait.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on there as well. There are other. Anyone have any other questions or thoughts on that, or?
What's the widest tornado you ever saw?
The widest or the whitest?
Wide.
The widest. I don't know, maybe Spencer, 0.8 of a mile. That's probably the largest. Red Rock, what was that? The forensics expert is over here. What was Red Rock, Tim?
It was about the same.
About the same. So, something like that. I don't think I've seen a mile or larger.
I have a question. I'm very brand new to this, but I've lived in Texas since 1982 and I've never seen a tornado. And I'm afraid of tornadoes. So would it be good for me to become a storm watcher to get rid of those fears?
I think so. I mean, the more you learn about it, I think you start to lose your fear and understand it better, like anything else. So sure, definitely, you can become a storm watcher, maybe even eventually a storm spotter, which is a little more active.
Storm spotter.
Which is you're actually out there. Although you could actually do it from your house.
From my house.
So I think the more information you have, and you will find that the more people know when a storm's approaching, whether it's going to be approaching their house, because you learn about radar systems, you learn about how to know when a storm is severe enough to be concerned, and it helps to have that knowledge, because then you know how to just be prepared, but also to know whether there is a concern that you need to be facing. Because most people will say, oh my gosh, the sirens have gone off, I need to get really prepared. When actually, if they just take a second to look at a radar, they will know it's not coming anywhere near them or in their area. So,
Right. I think a lot of people, if they could spend 15 or 20 minutes just reading about it, that they would go from here to here, like very quickly. So when they're here, they're afraid of it. But once they literally 15, 20 minutes of basic reading, they go to here, because they can understand a lot more in just a few minutes of reading. And I get a lot of questions like, where do you go when a tornado comes? Well, you can answer that in one sentence. The smallest, most interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure. So there's your storm shelter. Hopefully an engineered storm shelter, which is the best, or underground. But that will show you where your shelter is probably in your house. That's one sentence. So you're closer to being here where you want to be, understanding the weather. Also keeping on top of it, we have apps now, weather radar that you can watch. A good free one would be My Radar.
Okay.
I do say probably the best free one. So you might want to check that out.
So I can say that since I've been a guest in Tempest since 2016, I've learned so much about it each year that when I used to live in New York, and now I moved to Texas in February, and I first had my first example of not chasing on a tour and having severe storm, tornado warning, and all my knowledge that I've learned. I was watching the radar, I was watching the Weather Channel, I was watching the sky, I was doing all that together, and it made me feel like in control to the point where I knew that there was not going to be a tornado in my general area, but I knew it was going to be further north, and in fact, it did hit further north in Irving, which was, so my knowledge that I've gained has been amazing, and the more I've done it, the more I feel important. In fact, my friends ask me all the time, well, what do you think? Do you think this is going to happen? Do you think? And I'll look, and just for fun, sometimes I'll just look at the sky, and if they're predicting just normal thunderstorm, well, is it going to be a thunderstorm? And it's not. And I'm usually my average is about maybe 85, 90%, which I credit all to my chasing for 9 years with Kim and Martin.
All right, so for Tempest Tours, we started at 23 years ago. And one of the things that was really important to me was education. So we don't want to just take you to go see a storm. We want you to learn about what we're doing. And as you know, there's a lot of time where we're really not doing anything and you're waiting for a storm to develop. So we want you to learn during that time. Let me move this back.
This is David. I'll also mention that the Weather Service offers training every year for spotters. It's called Skywarn training. And if you want to read about it or talk to me afterwards, that'd be great. It's on their website, weather.gov/FWD, like Fort Worth, Dallas, FWD/Skywarn, all one word. And they have training every February through March before the storms really get active, and it's a really good program. And we can't have enough active spotters out there.
True. So there's this group of people called storm spotters, and they're a bunch of guys and ladies out there, and they're trained, and they just sit out there and watch the storms and tell the Weather Service what's going on, so they know, so they have some eyes, on the ground, not just radar, and they can tell what's going on out there, so they know whether or not to issue a warning and warn the public. So how many, Tarrant County, just ballpark, how many active storm spotters are there? A couple hundred or something? That's a question.
So when I retired in '99, there were 600.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So there's more.
Okay, say 1,000 maybe. So that's a lot of people, and they're out there. They're well trained, and they're just they're the front line, for the public safety. So storm spotters, I think, they're like first responders. I mean, they're out there in the bad weather helping out. So, and I think probably North Texas may have the best. I think Jennifer would like hearing this, but I said it before, probably the best storm spotter network in the country.
There are eyes and ears on the ground. Some in the meeting may not know that radar can only see down as low as a couple of thousand feet to the ground, and as farther out it goes, the higher it goes. So having eyes on the ground really helps the forecasters and the warning meteorologists to know for sure that, hey, there's something happening there. And sometimes they don't see it on radar first. Somebody on the spotter groups will say, hey, there's a formation here that's to take note of, and they'll sometimes issue a warning earlier than they might normally from a radar signature.
So what's really interesting about DFW is, even though Oklahoma City and Norman are kind of known as kind of a research area, I think DFW is kind of known as a training area, because a lot of the storm spotter development and training occurred here, as well as just, severe weather education in general. So I think if you have to live in Tornado Alley, this is one of the best places to live, because I think you're going to get a great spotter network, a great weather service, forecast office, well-trained meteorologists, a good, cooperative, helpful media network, and other warning systems that we have here. We have the high resolution,
Cost and rate.
the high resolution first test here, right?
Mm-hmm.
In
Yes.
DFW, North Texas.
Yes.
So I think, DFW is the greatest at risk population wise in Tornado Alley because it's so large. So I think you get a lot of resources that come in here to DFW to try to look out for the population. So, just get those apps, learn something about severe weather, identify your shelter, and I think you'll feel a lot more comfortable. Be weather aware. Well, that's really the key, is being weather aware. A lot of people, I've been tracking a storm I tracked a storm across Arlington once, and it was tornado warned with a tornado, and there were people shopping. I was driving down the road trying to stay up with it, and people were out shopping, renting errands. The sirens were going off, by the way. So it's a very odd thing. Like in a small town in Tornado Alley, if the siren's going off, I think people are more weather aware. And they may be out there looking at it and pointing at it, but at least they're aware, right? It's right there and they can see it. And DFW people are more concentrated on, shopping or whatever it is they're doing. And so they'll be out, running errands with the sirens going off. So just be weather aware.
Can I ask a question? A lot of people talk about climate change and the influence of that on our weather. What does Storm Chasers think about that?
Well, I don't really study climate. I study meteorology, which is shorter term. My guess is that if the Gulf of Mexico is warmer, then you would have better air to work with for severe storms. So you could see some increase in severity, or maybe they'll become more common. There are many days when there's not enough instability, there's not enough juice. I would guess you might see a little bit more juice, but I'm not a climatologist, and I don't know. Is anybody in this room a climatologist?
No, but from my understanding with everything, when the atmosphere is warmer, it has the capability of holding more water in it, so more precipitation. So a number of the studies have talked about more enhanced rainfall rates with storms. So that goes into more heavy rainfall, flash flooding type of event.
Okay.
Yes, the moisture is one of them, and then hurricanes, which I know you have worked with as well. There have been studies that talk about the increase in precipitation. There's studies that talk about slower forward movement. So think of a storm like Harvey, which resided over South Texas for a while. There's more instances of that, more instances of stronger winds and hurricanes moving farther inland than we used to before. So there's a lot of literature out there on this. I'm not a climate expert, but I try and keep up with what's happening out there.
Very good.
I think probably the only thing that I've been able to see regarding climate change is it appears to me, and this is unofficial, just observing, it appears to me climate change is in the previous climate, maybe the ups and downs were like this, and maybe now they're a little bit more like this.
Oh.
So you get a little bit more incidents of record highs, whether that may be precipitation, temperatures, whatever, and more record lows, precipitation, temperatures, whatever. I think you see more of this. Is that kind of?
Yeah, I was just thinking more of just, what we know is more of a year-to-year seasonal basis of, where the oscillations are, like how El Nino versus La Nina, where certain high pressure set up in the amplitude of the jet stream is really more dictating of how the season presents
A
itself.
pattern, yeah.
Yeah.
So the last I was reading the ENSO analysis yesterday. I think they were saying a fairly stout El Nino winter, maybe. That's what I was reading.
Yeah, through at
the
least April or May. Yeah.
So potentially more rain, a little warmer temps, maybe more storms over the winter, maybe the spring.
Could I ask again about how you do this Skywarn training? How do we do that?
Skywarn training is delivered by the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And if you go to their website, if you just Google Weather Service Fort Worth, and then they'll have, it should be the first thing that comes up, and they'll have a spotter schedule there. And you could even Google the whole thing, just Weather Service Fort Worth spotter schedule. And then
Schedules.
there's two fixed ones. One in the Tarrant County is like the last Saturday in January. Or I don't know if you
still they do one for like every county.
I don't know, Tim, do you know?
Not offhand, they probably could, you probably,
They-
the schedule isn't out yet.
Yeah, they usually publish the schedule starting late December, early January, and they're in person if there's enough people that will attend. So if some counties don't have enough people, and they will do online as well. There's some recorded training sessions on the weather site's YouTube channel. So it's both online and recorded, and and in person, so you can ask questions, that sort of stuff. It's free. There's no charge, and you just come out with a better understanding of severe weather and how to report severe weather indications.
Right. So if you reach out to the Weather Service in Fort Worth, the forecast office, they're really very professional and responsive, and they'll, answer any questions you have. So,
and if you can't find it, you're welcome to call the office. They take phone calls and will answer questions as well.
Okay, and then also March 2nd, TESSA, which is at TESSA.org, the National Storm Conference, will have some spotter training there. It'll be more advanced, more elements beyond basic. We started that in 2000 or so, 99, somewhere around there. It must have been 99 because, anyway, somewhere around there, I had a meeting at the Weather Service, and with Bill Bunting and Al Bowler and Gary Woodall, we decided we'll offer this advanced storm spotter training session so that the Weather Service can do the basic, and I think they have an advanced, and then they can come to TESSA and get even more if they're really hungry for more information. And Bill Bunting was saying he thought that was a good public-private relationship. So since that time, we've been offering like an advanced storm, like a super storm spotter training session. So that's like if you want even more information. And that's on March 2nd. It's free. Any other questions?
Well, I say we transition from the storm chasing aspects of photography because that's so big a part of your life here. So, what have been some of like your most challenging shots to get when you're out there?
Challenging.
Could be general, specific.
Well, usually it's specific when somebody says, I want a shot that's from the south side of the
Yeah.
storm, and I want it to be this, and
It
whatever.
needs to be next to a red barn. And we need 3 cows on the left side frame. And I'm like, okay,
They were
let's
like,
see what I'll try. Well, I mean, there is this shot. I think you saw in one of the videos where you could see the camera going through a window, and there's like dust blowing outside. There's like a lightning bolt, and it's going through the window. That was challenging. We had to find our goal. My goal was to get that shot. It's in my head. I had it sketched on paper. But we had to go and find a house that was in the path of a severe storm that was abandoned, that was open, and we could get it done quickly. So we did finally find one in West Texas out by Earth, I think. And we pulled up, ran into the house. It's falling apart, of course. And we set up a rail in the window, which happened to be open, which is very convenient, pointing towards the storm. And then we put the camera on the track. And then we got some more shots of the camera going down the track through the window, and then capturing the storm as you go out the window. So I wanted that look. And so that was challenging. But usually most of the shots aren't that produced. It's hard to in a hurricane it's kind of hard to shoot because it's very wet, and so you have to wrap up your camera. So you have to keep that. Hurricanes are, in my opinion, way more difficult to shoot than tornadoes. Because you're in it. It's very messy, very inconvenient.
Do you have favorite types of shots, or structures or features that you like?
I think
go after.
Structure's really cool. Thunderstorm structure. You get a nice rotating storm. It's really pretty. Lightning can add some lightning to it, add a tornado to it. It's kind of like Dave Hoadley sketches his fantasy supercells, where you have all that structure, you have all those elements. You have the striations, you have the tornado, you have the momatus up underneath the anvil. You have a nice lightning bolt, a nice crawler lightning bolt. Like you're painting it, right? It's when you see those storms, those are nice, right, Jim? When you can see them.
Anyone have questions or?
I guess maybe you covered all. You mentioned something about be weather aware, know your shelter. So what do you mean by know your shelter? Where
So
you're supposed to
what kind
go?
of house do you live in?
I'm in a second floor condominium.
Okay.
My shelter is my laundry room with a helmet on my head.
Okay, that's pretty good. So the formulas, and Tim is an expert on this, on like, you know, how tornadoes affect structures, but it's generally the smallest, most interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure. So you want to eliminate trailer homes and, you know, small, center, low is what you're looking at. Yeah.
There have been times I've run downstairs to neighbors, right?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I thought maybe you were referring to something more, a larger structure, or something that we were supposed to go through. Or...
No. Just keep it small, keep it low, keep it sturdy, stay away from windows. Nowadays we have these things called engineered above ground shelters. So some engineers out at Texas Tech, you know, there's Texas Tech graduates out there. They have figured out, you know, you can, if you engineer a, you know, small room well enough, you could withstand tornadic winds. So there are above ground shelters you can now get. And you can, I did it in my house where I retrofitted a closet with one of them. And then I just finished it so it looks exactly like a closet inside the house. And you open it up, in fact, you steal a room.
Okay, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I think being in a second floor condo, if you put as many walls between you and the outside, and having helmets good, getting a small room, either a laundry room or a bathroom, that's good. Only the most intense tornadoes take out a condo building. Most tornadoes will not do that. Most tornadoes will just break windows and maybe remove the roof. So you're good for the vast majority of tornadoes.
Right. Well, I grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota area, Minot, North Dakota area. And then I was in Minnesota, and I started doing some weather spotting up in Grand Forks, and they would get some pretty terrific storms up there, just probably not as frequent as here and probably not as intense. I'm not sure, but when I moved here, they seemed to develop a lot easier. And so I got really interested, like that supercell that, you know, kind of went along North I-30 there I wanted to see that so bad. So my interest just was piqued. So I'd really like to get into it again.
Excellent. You should become a spotter.
Yeah.
And after you become a spotter, then become a chaser.
Okay.
So the reason why we have a lot of tornadoes in the southern plains, which is like mainly Texas, Oklahoma, is the Gulf. I mean, we didn't have the Gulf. The Gulf of Mexico is the heat engine. It's the thing that drives Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley. It's, you know, you got to have that warm, moist air. And, you know, if you like tornadoes, then stay near the Gulf, maybe a little inland where you can get some good shear. So really central Texas north into central Kansas, that's where you get a lot of shear and Gulf moisture at the same time. So you do get a fair amount of shear up there on the northern plains, but you have to get the moisture up there.
Right.
And that's usually not until like June or July.
We got, you know, we would get periodically some horrific storms up there. There was one in Wadena, Minnesota one year that was 5 different funnels that came together. It was this horrendous. Yeah. It was, the video was, yeah. It's very interesting to me. I love it.
Yeah. So we have the same thing here. It's just bigger. The season is just bigger.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you're sort of involved in one of the most rapidly changing technologies right now. So where are we now in terms of storm photography and the equipment that you're utilizing, and what's coming soon with all that?
Okay, so you mean resolution?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, just speed, resolution.
So I developed a 16K video system in 2018. It was very, very clunky. So when you start to do the post-production on it, it's literally 2 days to stitch together the images for like a 12-second clip. 2 days. of the computer working around the clock with several fans blowing on it to keep it from melting. So we did that, and actually Apple, their development department called us, and Intel called us and wanted to know how we did that. So and then, you know, since I did spend a lot of time on it, right, Kim? Ridiculous amount of time developing it. I kind of wanted some money, and I figured, you know, Fortune 20 companies or whatever they are, and Apple said that they would give me a fully loaded iMac that I'd tell them how to do it, and I'm like, okay, that's worth, what is that, 3,000 or something, fully loaded, 35 or something like that. Okay, and she goes, I said that to her, and I said, yeah, okay, I think we can do that. Well, we're not going to really give it to you. We're going to rent it to you for 6 months. I said, no. And she got mad. So anyway, to answer your question, there's a camera that was just introduced. It's called Big Sky. It's 18K. Wow. 18K.
It's fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we handled the 16K video clips, they are just, even with the new computer I got, the new Apple Silicon Ultra, which is much faster than what we had, it's just clunky. It's like moving around a big giant, you know, car around the office or something. It's just slow. But it looks cool if you can, you know, project it or watch it on the screen. I think once you get up to, 4K looks so much better than HD. And some of the most expensive, highest end cameras in the world still just shoot 4K. This is push towards 8K, 16K, 32K, 164K, 128K, 256. Let's just keep going. But really, like the movies that you see at the theater, it's all 4K. And it's really just coming online now. 4K is just now becoming more normal. And then, of course, 8K. I think 8K, it all depends on how big your screen is. So the biggest screen you could probably want in your house might be 100 inches or something, right? Like, you know, what is this, 100 inches? This screen, maybe? So imagine a screen this big in your house. Well, 4K will really do well on the screen still, right? 8K would be more than enough. So I think you get to a point, and in the movie theater, they're projecting 4K, and it looks great. Those screens are much larger. So I think there's a point where it just gets silly. But I did it just to see if I could do it.
Yeah. 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days for one clip. And some of those I had to throw away because they weren't stitching. You don't know if they're going to be successful stitching until after a run.
What the device looked like.
The device, the shooting device. So it was a mount that I made with two 50 megapixel cameras, and they were like this. Okay, so they're not straight, they're like this, because you have to overlap the images, and then you have to account for parallax. So you can't get the camera very close to your subject. So I was careful to make sure the subject was maybe 200 feet away at least, maybe even more. So if you had a barn or something, you really need at least 200 feet away from it. Otherwise, they wouldn't. The difference between this image of the barn and this image of the barn would be so great, they wouldn't stitch together. So you had to be, when you're shooting, you had to be mindful of the parallax. And then sometimes they just wouldn't stitch. There wasn't enough common pixels in the overlap for the software to identify and stitch properly. So probably I ended up getting about 50 successful clips out of maybe 100. So it took 3 months to produce 50 clips after they were shot.
Wow.
Labor of love. Labor of love.
I wasn't a labor of love. It was a labor of patience.
Yeah.
It was like I kind of think of it as like Jedi patience, you know. If you want to become a Jedi Knight, do that. Do 16K for 3 months, and you'll be very patient.
Okay. Are there any last questions? We have time for maybe one quick one.
for photography, storm photography, there's lightning photography. Okay, so lightning photography. People ask me what kind of cameras they should bring with them when they chase, and I say your phone. You know, you can shoot a good storm photo with your phone, right? But lightning, not so much. So lightning is that. So here's storm photography, right? Hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever. That's storm photography. And then there's lightning over here. It's very different. So with lightning, really to do it well, you need to be able to open up your shutter. You need a tripod, and you need probably at least a moderately good camera, not an iPhone, to shoot the lightning photography. So that's the kind of oddball storm photography that's very different than the bulk of it. There is what's called eye lightning.
Eye lightning, and it works really well if it'll catch it just right. But I would say out of 200 shots, you might get one decent one.
Right.
And so
I got a lightning app on my Android, and that they told me about, and I've been able to get some nice little lightning shots, you know, with that, which is really great.
just a few. I
Yeah.
mean, they use over flash, they do all sorts of things, and you can't shoot it well.
Yeah.
But in a pinch.
You can
sometimes get
also
some
put your iPhone into what's it called? The motion. What is the still?
slow motion.
No, what's like live? It's called live,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, live.
Live.
Oh, yeah.
So you can put your camera on your iPhone into live mode, and it shoots a bunch of images, right? And it does pretty well with lightning. The advantage of that over eye lightning is that it only shoots like 10 images or something, whereas eye lightning just keeps going, so you end up with like 200 black images, and then there'll be one good image or whatever. So you do have to do a little bit more work with eye lightning. Yeah, that's the strange weather subject for photography.
That can get you good one.
And then also, video photography of lightning is not very good usually, unless you're using a global shutter. You'll need a camera. There's
Came out with a Sony camera.
the A9 III.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can get for what is it?
$6 grand.
$6 grand. Okay. I was gonna say the Komodo. I have a Komodo, but it's the same price.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a global shutter. So almost all cameras are rolling shutters. So you have a sensor, and then it scans like this, and then it keeps doing that over and over, like really fast. Well, if the delay between that first scan and the second one is more than about 7 or 8 milliseconds, once you get around 7 or so milliseconds or faster, you can start to capture lightning without any artifacts in it. And there's a few cameras that will do that, but
The Nikon Z9, I think, or something like that. Both their latest ones are pretty fast, but not global sure fast.
the Sony A7S Mark III has a 7 or 8 millisecond one, and so you'll be able to capture, maybe 75% good lightning bolts on video. Right.
Window effect.
But if you get global shutter camera, then you should be able to catch close to 100% without any artifacts.
And it also does 80,000th of a second.
Oh, on the still,
Yeah.
or
stills.
either.
I don't know if you have enough light for that, but
Yeah.
except for with light. Maybe.
Yeah, it would have to be, the lighting would have to be like right next to you.
Yeah.
And you don't want that
And you
ever.
don't want to be that
No, you don't need
It's
to be that
too
fast.
close.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that fast.
A lot of people ask me about how close have I ever been to lightning. I'd say maybe 100 feet, 150 feet. Closer? No,
At one time, the one time.
maybe 100 feet.
No, it was like across the street because you were shooting it and we were.
Oh, but we're under protection.
We're under, yeah, but I mean, we were filming it and shoot, and as soon as the lightning goes,
Yeah.
it goes kaboom.
It might actually hit the roof
And
above
I
us.
screamed, and Martin says, "Would you mind not screaming on a video?" It's like, you know, that,
Yeah.
right?
So I think it might have hit the structure where you were under
Yeah.
because you couldn't see it. You could only see the flash around us. But when it hits that close, it's interesting because there's no reverb. It just sounds like a very short shotgun sound. It's a crack. It's like,
Yeah.
Crackle.
Yeah.
And there's no reverb.
And it's just like
There's no
the
echoing.
light,
It's
the
just like,
light and the sound is simultaneous. There's just no.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. That's an interesting part of storm chasing. It will get you going. You don't need any coffee.
No, no. But we were safe. We were.
We are under a metal roof, and people say, "What? A metal roof?" Yeah, we were under a metal. It was a metal gas station awning, and we were just under there shooting. Theoretically, we should be safe. We don't really know that, but theoretically, right? What do you think, Tim? Yeah, the engineer.
We were safe that night. That's important.
Yes. So Faraday cage. That's a cage of metal, and you get inside, and then the lightning can't reach you in theory. So
Not 100% though.
yeah, right, in theory. And then people say, "Are you safe in your car because of the tires, rubber tires?" No, it's really more the Faraday cage again. In theory.
Oh, there was a church entity that was near us on a chase, and there's a lot of lightning, and we left, and they stayed, and the lightning hit the vehicle, hit the turbine, and it just took out all the electrical, and the van that everybody was safe.
Yeah, they had to have the tow truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and then if lightning doesn't take your vehicle out, it could be rats. So we had some rats that got in our vehicle that was parked for a month or whatever.
Oh, parking lot.
Yeah.
Where
And they ate all the wiring underneath the engine hood. So that was like a few $1,000s to repair. Like, I mean, who does that?
Right.
Like, why?
It's warm. It's cozy.
They must be really bored, right?
Board rats, yeah.
Yes.
Martin, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For your time, for all being here. So wrap it up. For being our guest speaker, here's an Amazon gift card.
Nice.
To help replace the wires instead of vehicle. So we'll just get through some chapter business real quick. So first, dues. If you want to be a member of the chapter, want to pay dues, got my man Stanley here. It's $10 if you're under 18 or a student. You're free. I don't know if there's any other chapter business. Stanley, no, Dave.
I'll just mention that Gary chatted that he picked Katrina, but he excuses himself from the question earlier for the T-shirt.
No worries. All right. Other than that, I will just say the next meeting will be here, December 12th at noon at the COG, and our guest speaker will be a PhD student from OU. His name is Joseph Trujillo Falcon, and he's going to talk. It'll generally be about the interpretation of weather products in other languages, and how people perceive what watches and warnings are when they're translated. So it'll be a very fascinating talk. Other than that, thank you all very much for being here, and meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dave.